Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos, and today we have a small bit of patch notes coming with next patch, so this is also next week. It's just weekly hotfixes, but they're being rolled in to 11.07. So we regularly make class balance adjustments based on gameplay data and feedback from players on class performance. The following changes to classes that are over and underperforming in various areas will arrive alongside the 11.07 patch, December 17th in this region. Up first, Unholy DK. Apocalypse damage going up from the ghouls by 30%. Rotten Touch increases the damage of your Scourge Strike against the target by 60%, was 50. Death Coil damage going up by 8%. Scourge Strike, Clawing Shadows, and Vampiric Strike going up by 10%. So a lot of this is more of the single target for Unholy. A little bit of AoE going up as well, but mostly looks like they're trying to bring up Unholy's single target a little bit, which I think is definitely pretty fair. Demon Hunter, Fellblade damage going up by 10%, and the Hunt also by 10%. This applies to both Vengeance and Havoc. Obviously, Fellblade's not a huge source of your damage on either spec. The Hunt is quite a bit of damage, actually, so that going up is nice. And then Havoc is getting some specific buffs as well. Chaos Strike and Annihilation, and Demon's Bite and Demon's Blades going up. So primarily single target buffs here for Vengeance, Havoc as well, although the Hunt does have some AoE as well. Although I think it's the initial damage is actually just on a single target, so I think this is all purely single target increases for both Vengeance and Havoc. Evoker, Devastation, all damage increased by 4%, not in PvP, and Pyre damage increased by 20%. So Dev Evoker it's getting buffed in single target and AoE, but mostly AoE here, not single target, which I think is fair, although the AoE version of Dev, you don't actually press, like Pyre is not a particularly impressive button on Evoker AoE. Right now, it's not like some of the previous builds in Dragonflight where you would spam, like you'd get a bunch of your damage being sourced to Pyre. A lot of it's coming from the Mass Disintegrates. The Mass Disintegrates causing a big Charged Blast Pyre, which I guess is getting buffed as well. But yeah, I wonder if this will be enough to potentially incentivize some of the builds that are more, because there's a bunch of Pyre talents on the tree that I believe you don't take even in M+ currently. And maybe 20% is a large number, so maybe this would change that kind of build. Also, Dev getting better in raid situations as well off of this. Even in pure single target, you do get some damage from Pyre as well, because when you press Dragon Rage, you fire off a free Pyre, so it's a little bit more than 4% single target, but pretty much 4% single target. Hunter, Marksmanship. Trick Shot's damage percentage increased to 75%, was 65%, so this is quite a large AoE buff right here. Trick Shots is a lot of your AoE on MM, and this is a buff. This looks like a 10% buff if you just kind of do, 75 minus 65, but it's more than that, right? Because you're going up by like, I don't know, 17%, right? How much are you going up by? Is there a way to do this? Let's open up the calculator. Would this be what? 75 divided by 65? Yeah, so 15.3% is one way of looking at it. There's a bunch of different... It depends on if you wanted to do it as a percentage of the 75 or the 65. Either way, this is a nice buff to the AoE on Trick Shots there. Razor Fragment's AoE damage percentage increased to 35%, was 25%. And then there's some Dark Ranger specific buffs here as well. Black Arrow, Shadow Surge, and Bleak Powder all going up. I think this is AoE as well. So MM, looks like they're mostly targeting the AoE on this, although Dark Ranger is also going to be getting some single target damage as well. Holy Paladin. Veneration now transfers 225% of damage done into healing, was 200%. Saved by the Light, absorb amount increased by 15%, not in PvP. Consecrate damage going up by 30%. And Tempered in Battle no longer activates while the Paladin is within crowd control. It no longer activates if the target is in Cyclone, Detainment Imprison, or Diamond Ice Freezing Trap. That's got to be a purely PvP thing, pretty much. I do think they should look at Tempered in Battle. Tempered in Battle is... I think they should probably cap how much it'll transfer at any given time to like a couple 100K or something, because you just look at these death logs where somebody takes a couple million from Tempered in Battle and then dies right afterwards, and that feels kind of disproportionately impactful for hero talent. Priest, Holy. Flash healing increased by 15%. Holy Fire damage increased by 15%. Okay. So a little bit of Holy Priest. Flash heal, so it's like single target spot healing throughput for them. And then Holy Fire damage going up. I mean, Holy Priest's big single target heal is not Flash heal, right? It's the Holy Word Serenity. That's the one. But Flash Heal going up, I mean, you do cast those, so that's nice. Resto Shaman, small buff here. Totemic Surging Totem mana cost reduced by 25%, so a little bit of mana efficiency for Totemic Resto Shaman. Very welcome. Totemic Resto Shaman is very easy to yourself on compared to other healers, so that's going to be nice. Affliction, haunt damage increased by 75%, not in PvP. Focus Malignancy now causes Malefic Rapture to deal 25% increased damage to target suffering from UA, was 15%. So these are both single, like Haunt only goes on one target. Focus Malignancy increases your damage to one target. Oblivion damage increased 25%. Xavius's Gambit now increases the damage of UA by 20%, was 15. Perpetual Instability damage increased by 25%. And Siphon Life now increases corruption damage by 30%, was 20. So actually some AoE here, but mostly, again, it looks like they are trying to amp up the single target of this spec, which is very welcome. So actually they said at the top of this that they were changing classes that were overperforming, but it looks like they're not actually doing any nerfs here. It looks like this is just, they just copy paste this same sentence into all of these, but or maybe it applies to the PvP. Maybe there's nerfs in the PvP side of things. Are there any of these? We don't usually look at these. Yeah, okay, they nerfed Evoker in PvP. So there are some nerfs in here. I just don't, they're in the PvP section, which I skim over. I don't really look at the PvP section. But yeah, in the PvE side of things, just purely buffing a few specs that are sort of left by the wayside. I know that there are certainly some classes and specs out there that feel sort of abandoned. I know Demon Hunter is one of them. And I suspect that 10% damage buffs to a few of your abilities isn't really going to change that feeling, but it's certainly nice either way. I do hope that there are, in 11.1, maybe some, looks at moderate reworks, hero talent updates and reworks to some, again, I think Demon Hunter is crying out for some more fun hero talent trees, for some more fun kind of core gameplay back in the spec. Like the set bonus from Amir Drasil into the talent tree would go hard. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a good set of changes. All of these specs, Resto Shaman getting buffed. I think people will look at Resto Shaman getting buffed and be like, that spec doesn't need to get buffed. And maybe their throughput or their, group utility in M+ could go down a little bit because this is still a really good healer in M+. But I think that the difficulty landing on the mana is something that I think it's fine for some specs to be better at mana than others, but I do think Resto was a bit of an outlier in terms of like a Pug Resto Shaman is going to be drinking 20 times more than a Pug Disc Priest or whatever. Yeah, last thing, dude, Tempered in Battle. Speaking of Lightsmith, they gotta fix the prop pallies ooming themselves thing, man. That is, that being still in the game is ridiculous. Anyways, that's our look at these little patch notes. Hope you enjoyed this little video. I try and make these whenever there's patch notes out, even if they're kind of small ones like this, if I'm around. So hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. See you in the next one. Bye.